My sister stole the baby I carried for her, erased me from my family, and vanished with him. I thought I'd lost everything, until I discovered the dark secret she'd been hiding. I woke up at 5 a.m. that Sunday morning, too excited to sleep. My hands were shaking as I curled my hair for the first time since before the pregnancy. Every movement hurt. My abdomen was still recovering from the emergency C-section 3 weeks ago. But I didn't care. Today was the day I'd finally become Liam's godmother. I'd spent my last $45 on a silver rattle, the kind with little bells that jingle when you shake it. I practiced my godmother's speech in the bathroom mirror until my voice didn't crack anymore. I promise to always be there for you, I whispered to my reflection, smiling at the thought of holding baby Liam again. My sister Jennifer had texted me the night before, "Come to Mom's for Sunday dinner. 3 p.m. We'll do the godmother ceremony." 6 weeks. It had been 6 weeks since I'd seen him. 6 weeks since I almost died bringing him into this world. See, I was Jennifer's surrogate. She couldn't have kids of her own, and I wanted to give her that gift. What I didn't know was that I had a blood clotting disorder called Factor V Leiden. Jennifer knew. She'd been tested for it 6 months before the pregnancy. But she never told me. She never warned me that carrying her baby could kill me. And it almost did. I died on that operating table. My heart stopped for almost 3 minutes before they brought me back and performed the emergency C-section. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. Jennifer said she'd name the baby after me to honor my sacrifice. She promised I'd be his godmother, that I'd always be part of his life. But something felt wrong from the start. They released me from the hospital after 3 days. No one came to visit. Not Jennifer, not my mom Linda, not anyone. I texted Jennifer asking if the baby was okay, if I could see him. She said soon. Maybe next weekend. Then the weekend after that. Then the one after that. 6 weeks of excuses. I got dressed that morning in the only outfit that fit over my still swollen stomach. The drive to Mom's house should have taken 30 minutes, but I left 2 hours early because I couldn't wait anymore. On the way, I called Mom to ask what dessert to bring. I'd already bought ingredients for her favorite lemon bars. The call went straight to a disconnected number message. My chest tightened. Maybe she forgot to pay the phone bill again. It had happened before. I pulled over on the highway shoulder and tried Jennifer's number. Blocked. I tried my cousin Richard. Blocked. Aunt Vanessa. Disconnected. My Uncle James. Blocked. Cars whipped past me on the highway as I sat there, my phone screen blurring through tears. 15 family members. Every single one had either blocked my number or disconnected their phones. They'd cut me out completely. I drove to Mom's house anyway, hoping this was all some terrible mistake. Her rose bushes, the ones she'd spent years nurturing, were brown and withered. Through the mail slot, I could see furniture covered in white sheets. The house was empty. They'd moved. My legs felt weak as I stumbled back to my car. Where was Jennifer? I drove to her apartment across town, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. When I got there, the landlord was showing the place to a young couple. "Are you Maya?" he asked when he saw me. He handed me an envelope with my name written in Jennifer's handwriting. Inside was a check for $4,500 and a note that said, "This makes us even. Don't contact us." I tried to cash the check 3 days later. It bounced. Through a fake Instagram account, because Jennifer had blocked my real one, I found out they'd moved to Seattle. There were photos of Liam's christening. My mom Linda was holding him, smiling. A woman I'd never seen before was listed as his godmother. They'd replaced me like I never existed. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, looking at the C-section scar across my belly. This scar was all I had left of the family I'd tried to create for my sister. The family that had erased me. 7 months went by. 7 months of therapy, of trying to move on, of telling myself I'd done a good thing even if nobody appreciated it. Then my phone rang. "Ms. Maya. This is Karen Rodriguez from Sterling Insurance. I need to ask you some questions about your surrogacy arrangement. The hospital had billed my insurance $500,000 for the emergency C-section and my resuscitation. My insurance company was looking for any reason not to pay. And they'd found something interesting. Your sister had genetic testing done 6 months before your pregnancy, Karen said. Her voice was careful, professional. The results showed she was positive for factor V Leiden. But on the fertility clinic forms, she marked, no family history. Did you know about this? The room spun. I sat down hard on my kitchen floor. I didn't know anything about factor V Leiden, I managed to say. Ms. Maya, this is insurance fraud. Your sister knew you had a high probability of inheriting this disorder. She knew pregnancy could be fatal for you. And she didn't disclose it. After I hung up, I called my doctor and got tested. Positive for factor V Leiden, the blood clotting disorder that made childbirth potentially deadly. Jennifer had known. She'd known I might die, and she let me carry her baby anyway. She didn't care if I lived or died. She just wanted her child. The insurance company went after Jennifer for the full $500,000. I hired a pro bono lawyer and filed my own lawsuit for attempted murder. Because that's what it was. She'd knowingly put my life at risk and then abandoned me when I survived. Jennifer's perfect new life in Seattle started falling apart. Child Protective Services got an anonymous tip about drug activity at her address. When they investigated, they found Jennifer's boyfriend Lucas selling drugs out of their apartment. The photos they sent me made me physically ill. Liam, at 11 months old, lying on a bare mattress on the floor in a filthy onesie. Empty bottles everywhere. The expensive stroller I'd bought them being used to store bags of cash and drugs. They took Liam away. Jennifer called me for the first time since she'd disappeared. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Please don't do this, she begged. He's my son. You left me to die, I said and hung up. 4 months of paperwork later, they called me to come pick up Liam. I flew to Seattle with an empty car seat and a heart full of hope and terror. I'd felt this baby kick inside me for 9 months, but I'd never actually held him. When the social worker pulled him from his foster mother's arms, Liam screamed. He didn't know me. To him, I was just another stranger in a long line of people taking him from the only home he knew. The first 3 months were hell. Liam cried constantly. He wouldn't let me touch him without screaming. He couldn't sit up at 13 months old because of neglect in Jennifer's care. The pediatrician said he had severe developmental delays. We started physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. Everything hurt, my body still recovering, my heart breaking for this traumatized baby, my mind exhausted beyond measure. But slowly, things got better. His first word was, no. His first steps were in my living room, holding onto the coffee table. The first time he let me hold him without crying was 3 months after he came home. I have a video of it on my phone. I still watch it sometimes when things get hard. I raised him for 6 years. 6 years of bedtime stories and skinned knees and parent-teacher conferences. 6 years of watching him grow from that traumatized baby into a bright, funny, loving little boy. He called me Aunt Maya. Sometimes, when he was very tired or very happy, he'd slip and call me Mom. Then Jennifer came back. It started small. A silver Honda following us to the grocery store. A woman standing outside Liam's school playground, waving at him through the fence. Liam waved back, confused but curious. The school thought she was a family member because she'd been so persistent, so friendly. Then one Thursday afternoon, someone rang my doorbell during school hours. I opened it to find Liam standing there with his backpack, tears streaming down his face, holding printed photographs. "Why did you lie to me?" he sobbed. I looked at the photos. Jennifer holding Liam in a beautiful apartment, everything carefully cropped to hide the drug raid dirt from the original police photos. "My real mom," said the caption. Liam's backpack strap was torn. He had fresh red scratches on both arms, like someone had grabbed him and dragged him somewhere. His sneakers were muddy. "That lady said you stole me from my real mom," Liam said, his 7-year-old face twisted in confusion and anger I'd never seen before. "I called the school. The secretary said a woman named Jessica Brown, claiming to be Liam's aunt, had picked him up early with court documents and ID. They'd let her take him because she'd been waving at him for weeks, and Liam seemed to recognize her. I called 911. The operator told me it was a civil matter for family court, because Jennifer was Liam's biological mother and he wasn't physically harmed. That night, I lay on the floor outside Liam's bedroom door, listening to him cry himself to sleep. My C-section scar ached with stress. Liam kept asking me why I lied, why I stole him, why I never told him the truth. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that his mother tried to kill you? That she abandoned him in a drug house? That she's only back now to hurt you? I checked Liam's school iPad and found 3 weeks of messages. Mommy Jennifer 2024, the contact was labeled. She'd been texting him during recess when teachers weren't watching, promising him Disney trips, new toys, a big house with a pool, telling him I'd hurt their family, that she loved him and missed him every single day. She'd been grooming him for weeks. My custody lawyer Matthew arranged an emergency hearing, but it would take 2 weeks to see a judge. 2 weeks of Jennifer poisoning my son against me. 2 weeks of watching him pull away from the only stable parent he'd ever known. The silver Honda started following us everywhere. To school, to the grocery store, to the park. Always 3 cars back, never close enough to prove anything. When I drove into the police station parking lot one afternoon, it sped past without stopping. But I knew. Jennifer was watching, waiting, planning. The court appointed a psychologist, Dr. Sarah Collins, to evaluate Liam. I sat in the hallway outside her office, listening through the door as my son told a stranger that he was scared of me, that he wanted to meet his real family. Every word was carefully coached, perfectly practiced. But Dr. Collins wrote it all down like it was gospel truth. Jennifer's lawyer painted me as an obsessive woman who'd manipulated my vulnerable sister during a difficult time. They submitted my medical records from the C-section, suggesting I had PTSD and brain damage from dying on the table. They said I was mentally unstable, possessive, dangerous. Meanwhile, Jennifer showed up to court in a modest dress suit, hair pulled back, light makeup. The perfect picture of a reformed mother. Beside her sat Michael Thompson, supposedly her wealthy new husband who could give Liam opportunities one couldn't. Except Michael Thompson didn't exist. Matthew's investigator discovered he was actually Lucas Thomas, Jennifer's drug-dealing ex-boyfriend, just released from prison for fraud and identity theft. And Jessica Brown, the woman who'd been grooming Liam at school? She was Clara Lawson, Lucas's sister, also just out of prison for identity theft. But family court doesn't care about criminal records unless there's a conviction. And all of Lucas's charges had been dropped on technicalities. Dr. Collins recommended gradual transition to biological mother's custody because of Liam's clear preference and Jennifer's remarkable recovery. The judge ordered overnight visits twice a week. The first overnight, Liam packed his favorite Pokemon shirt and his stuffed dinosaur carefully. "Mommy Jennifer said I don't have to come back if I don't want to," he told me while zipping his backpack. He came home with a black eye. "I fell off a bike," he said immediately, before I could even ask. Then, louder, like someone had practiced with him, "I lied. I hit myself because I was mad about the visits." The words came out mechanical, rehearsed. Jennifer had taught him what to say if he got hurt. Matthew filed emergency motions. The judge was skeptical of both sides, tired of the mudslinging. She ordered a full 60-day custody evaluation. 2 more months of supervised visits while Jennifer continued to poison Liam against me. I found drawings under Liam's bed. Pages and pages of them. Me with devil horns and red eyes, labeled The Liar and Evil Maya. Jennifer with angel wings and a halo in every picture, my real MOM, and the good one. Some drawings showed me in a cage or behind bars. Others showed him living in a mansion with Jennifer and Lucas, swimming in a pool, playing with a puppy. A 7-year-old shouldn't know how to hate like that. Jennifer's psychological warfare was relentless. She told Liam I'd kept his grandmother from seeing him before she died, that it was my fault she had a heart attack. My mom was alive and well in Florida, but Liam wouldn't believe me. She told him God had meant for her to have him, but I was greedy and stayed alive when I should have died. She said I'd stolen him from heaven itself. The supervised visits got worse. Liam would come home asking why I didn't die when he was born. Why I was keeping him from his real family. Whether I'd still love him when he went back to Jennifer forever. Then I found the burner phone hidden under his pillow. Dozens of calls to a Seattle number, some lasting over an hour late at night when I thought he was sleeping. Text messages from Jennifer, "I'm going to save you soon, baby. Aunt Maya isn't your real mom. I am." 3 days before our final custody hearing, Jennifer and Jessica showed up at my door. Jennifer screamed loud enough for all the neighbors to hear. "She's keeping a mother from her child." Jessica filmed everything on her phone. When I closed the door, Jennifer shoved her foot in and kept yelling about how I'd kidnapped her son. Neighbors came out with their phones, recording the spectacle. By the time the police arrived, Jennifer and Jessica were gone. But the damage was done. Now the whole neighborhood thought I was some kind of child-stealing monster. The morning of the final hearing, Liam wouldn't get dressed. He sat on his bed in his pajamas, crying, screaming that he hated me and wanted his real mom. The ride to the courthouse was silent except for his sniffling in the back seat. In court, Matthew presented everything. The USB recordings of Jennifer coaching Liam. Lucas's arrest records. Clara's testimony about the drug dealing and neglect. Financial records showing Jennifer had hidden money in fake accounts instead of paying the $300,000 she owed me. Jennifer's lawyer twisted it all. Said I was mentally unstable from my traumatic birth. Said I was jealous that Jennifer could have children when I destroyed my own body being her surrogate. Said I'd manipulated a vulnerable woman and stolen her child. When they called Liam to testify, he stood in his little suit and delivered a speech that wasn't him. Every word perfectly practiced. I love my aunt, but I want to live with my real mother. Judge Karen called a recess to make her decision. I watched Jennifer hug Liam in the hallway like she'd already won. Then Matthew got a phone call. His face went white as he listened. When he hung up, he grabbed my arm and pulled me aside. "Clara was just arrested in California," he said. "She's offering to testify about Jennifer and Lucas's whole plan in exchange for a plea deal." Matthew begged the judge for a 72-hour continuance. Judge Karen was furious about more delays but grudgingly agreed. That night, Jennifer showed up at my apartment, pounding on the door so hard it rattled the frame. Through the peephole, her face was contorted with rage. "You ruined everything," she screamed. "You jealous bitch. I'll make Liam hate you forever. I'll tell him everything. I'll make sure he never forgives you." I recorded it on my phone. My neighbor had already called the police. Jennifer was still screaming when they handcuffed her on my front porch. 3 days later, we were back in court. Matthew played Clara's deposition for the judge. Clara had everything. Photos of fake documents. Recordings of Jennifer and Lucas coaching Liam on what to say in court. Proof that Lucas was still dealing drugs. Bank records showing they'd paid Jennifer's lawyer with drug money. The worst part was a recording Clara had made of Jennifer drunk, 2 weeks before the custody fight started. "I don't even want the brat," Jennifer's slurred voice said on the recording. "He reminds me of everything I lost. But Maya took him from me, and I'm going to make her pay. I'm going to destroy her. Taking Liam is just the beginning." Judge Karen's face was stone as she listened. When Jennifer took the stand, she started calm, denying everything. Then they played the audio. Jennifer jumped up, screaming about her rights, about how she was his mother and no one could take that away. "I'm his mother," she shrieked. "You can't take my child." It took 2 bailiffs to get her back in her seat. Judge Karen ordered an immediate psychiatric evaluation. The court psychiatrist spent 3 hours with Jennifer and came back with a diagnosis: narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial traits. She recommended no unsupervised contact with Liam due to the risk of emotional manipulation and psychological harm. 2 days later, Lucas was arrested at the Canadian border with 2 kilos of cocaine and 3 unregistered firearms in his trunk. When Matthew told Jennifer about the arrest at our next hearing, she snapped. She fired her lawyer right there in court and said she'd represent herself. Said everyone was conspiring against her. When she came back for her next appearance, she brought a stack of old printed emails and texts. She waved them around, claiming they proved I'd forced her to let me be her surrogate. She accused Judge Karen of taking bribes from the insurance company. She accused Matthew of sleeping with me. She screamed that I'd brainwashed Liam and that she was going to prove I'd beaten him. Then she tried to attack me across the aisle. The bailiffs grabbed her, but she kept kicking and spitting until they had to drag her out of the courtroom, still screaming threats. An hour later, Jennifer was brought back in handcuffs. Judge Karen awarded me full permanent custody with no visitation rights for Jennifer. She issued a permanent restraining order. Jennifer couldn't come within 500 feet of Liam or me. Then Judge Karen looked at the prosecutor in the gallery and said she was referring Jennifer's case for criminal charges: child endangerment, fraud, and witness tampering. Jennifer stared at the table, silent for the first time all day. A week later, Liam came home permanently. But he wasn't the same kid Jennifer had taken 3 months ago. He'd wake up screaming from nightmares every night. During the day, he followed me from room to room like he was afraid I'd disappear. He kept asking if Jennifer would come back, if she still loved him, if he was bad and that's why she left. We started therapy twice a week with a specialist in parental alienation. Progress was slow, painful. Some days Liam would seem okay, and then something small would trigger him and he'd spiral back into the confusion Jennifer had planted in his head. One afternoon, I couldn't find him after we got home from grocery shopping. I heard a rustling sound from his closet. Inside, he'd built a fort with every blanket and pillow he could find. He was sitting in the middle with a flashlight and his stuffed elephant. "No one can find me in here," he whispered. "I'm safe." Instead of making him come out, I got Christmas lights from the garage. We spent the next 3 hours stringing them up in his closet fort, making it into his special safe space. We sat in there together, reading comic books by Christmas light, not talking about anything scary. 2 months after the custody trial, Jennifer had her criminal trial via video from county jail. She was convicted of child endangerment, fraud, witness tampering, and assault. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in state prison with no contact with Liam until he turned 18. I watched on my laptop at home while Liam was at school. When the judge read the sentence, I didn't feel vindicated. Just exhausted. That afternoon, I told Liam that Jennifer was going to prison for 5 years. His face went through 10 different emotions before he just nodded and walked to his room. The next week, his therapist told me Liam had wanted to write Jennifer a letter. Not to send, but just to write down his feelings. When he came home, he was quieter than usual. He had a folded piece of paper that he threw in the garbage without showing me. I never looked at it. It was his private goodbye. 2 days later, I found him in the backyard with a shovel, digging holes along the fence line. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I want to plant something that's ours," he said. We drove to the garden center. Liam picked out tomato plants, sunflowers, and a small lemon tree. We planted them together, him carefully patting dirt around each root. Every morning before school, he watered them with an old watering can from the garage, checking for new growth like it was the most important job in the world. A few weeks later, his teacher called to tell me Liam had stopped talking about his real mom during sharing time. Now he talked about his plants and what we were going to have for dinner. The change came slowly, over months. He started calling me Aunt Maya again. Then one day, when he needed help with homework, he called me Mom. We both pretended not to notice, but I saw him smile when I answered. A state check arrived for $12,000, Jennifer's first asset seizure payment. I opened a college fund for Liam that day. 6 months after the trial, I woke up to smoke detectors beeping. I ran to the kitchen to find Liam flipping scrambled eggs and making toast. On the tray was a construction paper card written in green marker, "For Mom." His end-of-year report card came home with good grades and a note from his teacher. Liam stood up for a first grader being bullied today. He used his words instead of his fists. So proud of his growth. Over summer vacation, Liam asked if we could drive past the hospital where he was born. We sat in the parking lot eating ice cream while he looked at the building. "Thank you for not dying, Mom," he said quietly. I almost missed it. His voice was so soft. When Liam started 3rd grade, he wrote my name on every emergency form without prompting. For his family tree project, he wrote, "Don't need a tree. My mom is enough." I cried in my car after pickup that day. His 9th birthday was on a perfect October Saturday. We had school friends and neighbors in our backyard. Everyone sang while Liam blew out candles on my lopsided box mix cake. "What did you wish for?" someone asked. "I wished for things to stay exactly like this," he said, looking around at our messy, noisy, imperfect life full of people who loved us. I realized then that Jennifer would never understand what we'd built. This family wasn't stolen or forced. It was built day by day, through showing up even when things were hard, through choosing each other even when we were scared. Liam's garden grew taller than him that summer. We spent weekends canning tomatoes for winter, and he proudly gave jars to our neighbors as gifts. I knew that everything we'd lost, the pain, the fear, the betrayal, had led us exactly where we needed to be. Home.